Greetings and welcome back to this session of 1320 time stream where we're going to be covering this harmonic 43, which will be codon 63 or the 63rd gene key. This is also the third harmonic in the 9th harmonic run, which is our throat chakra. Don't get confused by all the numbers. There's many ways of seeing things, and all these number correlations show the different ways that we can witness this one thing. So it is a dynamic entity. And we can use these wisdoms throughout all of life in many different phases, many different states of awareness. So the final thing that I'll communicate before getting right into the transmission, starting off with really just thanking Richard Rudd. I really want to thank him. I've never met him. I've been following this work now for many years, exclusively in conjunction with the presentations that you're participating in here. And really have to thank him for channeling this body, bringing it to bear, so that we could utilize the knowledge therein to further those interdimensional DNA codon-based transmissions, specifically referring to the 4-day cycles here in the Mayan calendar or Tzolk'in. Now, this video series, each section is going to have 5 videos. We have the intro, which you most likely just watched. It's just a very quick dynamic to show us where on the timekeeping system we are. And as you know, we're on the 9th run with the 3rd harmonic in, which is harmonic 43, which happens to be gene key or codon number 63. And so that's the first part. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th part reflect and represent the 4 days of the harmonic itself, which we're beginning today. And so we go through the shadow, the gift, and the siddhi, and then kind of like the general commentary. Those 4 phases represent kind of like starting at the shadow level and evolving and witnessing all the energies that are part of the cycle. And then at the 4th day, it's kind of like your own embodiment of what this is, making it your own, going through the density, coming through the density, and kind of like the ascension or the transcendence. Appropriate today because we're a cosmic day, so transcendence is really in there as an energy. And then that sovereignty, that making it your own, how it works for you within this cycle. Because these cycles are sustainable. Every 260 days, we'll have a chance to revisit these. That's one of the beautiful things about this type of a calendrical system, or a timekeeping system, is that it is actually sustainable. It's recyclable. The calendars, so to speak, that are created, as long as they are not paired with a celestial constant, the galactic count sustains its harmonic rhythm. And so we can create material specifically for those days, and they continue to be relevant because we're bringing light to a well-being, a dynamic, an energy, an imprint of synchronicity, which is different than communicating the celestial or objective happenings of a day, which happens once and then kind of disappears. Though the harmonic relevance, you can have a whole bunch of cycles of days celestially. And the energies that we find are present with the 260 count or with the galactic count continue to show us the relevance of every single time on a year we come back to that same day. Like today, for an example, cosmic moon. Every time we come to cosmic moon, there's going to be a carrier signal that whatever you were doing on the last cosmic moon day 260 days ago will have relevance and continuum with this one because you're in the same portal. So in that way, you can continue to advance in a certain way of meditating, embodying. When you become more aware of these frequencies and how they work for you, you can continue entering all the portals and creating a continuum through time, infinitely in the future and infinitely in the past, through the vibrational portals that are open, known as time vector potentials. Each time vector potential is actually one of the destiny seals, which is a sign and a tone. one of the 13 tones, and one of the 20 signs. And so each one of those is a time vector potential, and that's how we embody this process of being in time, being in fourth dimensional time, traveling in time. Okay, enough on that. Let us get down to it here. 63rd gene key. So this will be for the first day. Now you don't have to practice it like this. All energies are present all times. But there can be a lot of information. So another way to embody this, especially if you don't have a number of hours just to go through all the transmissions in a day, one of the ways to embody this is the first day do one of them, second day another, third day another, and then the fourth day is that commentary. Or you can just kind of watch them all at the same time, or you can do both. It's all up to you and how you show up to embody this information. Okay. The 63rd shadow. Doubt. The paradoxical power of doubt. In arriving at the 63rd gene key, you have, in effect, come to the end of the 64 gene keys. In the mystical story of evolution, the 63rd and 64th gene key mark the epilogue, the cosmic text that gives us a certain sense of completion. This completion, however, is not about closure. The I Ching and the gene keys form an infinite Mobius strip that endlessly cycles around in ever more expansive arcs. The original I Ching, as traditionally transcribed, is a sequence beginning at the number 1 and ends with the number 64. However, there are as many sequences as there are numerological combinations. Your own evolutionary sequence is completely unique to you, and it is highly unlikely that it will ever be repeated in anyone else. This is the paradoxical wonder of the gene keys or the DNA codons. They are a digital encyclopedia of consciousness that can only be accessed and activated in a total, analog, and random or synchronistic manner. In a totally analog and synchronistic manner. The traditional sequence is held together by two sets of polarities. The first and second gene keys at the beginning and the 63rd and 64th gene keys at the end. These 4 gene keys have great importance, both genetically and mathematically. The mathematical configurations latent with the I Ching have been discussed by many great logical minds. The celebrated 17th century philosopher and mathematician Gottfried von Leibniz found confirmation on the I Ching for his invention of binary mathematics. The foundation of virtually all modern computer architecture, that the essential code for the 64 gene keys lies at the root of both our DNA and all computer programming, is an indication of how profound and real these 64 codes of consciousness really are. The polarity formed by the 63rd and 64th gene keys contains paradoxes that can be as wonderful as they are frustrating for the human mind. The relationship between the 63rd and 64th gift is the relationship between logic and imagination, or put another way, between your left brain and your right brain. As we see, they are so interconnected that they cannot easily be separated. Einstein made the famous statement, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." In fact, the fact is that the laws of logic depend. Where are we here? I lost that. The fact is that the laws of logic depend on a completely illogical premise. The notion of infinity. Infinity is a logical impossibility, and yet the human brain is designed in such a way that it can conceptualize this paradox. At the human shadow frequency, these 2 great genetic archetypes, the 63rd shadow and the 64th shadow, give birth to 2 conditions, known as doubt and confusion, respectively. Doubt is born when you lose touch with the wonder of imagination, and confusion comes to you when you rely too heavily on logic. If you turn these concepts around, you could just as easily say that doubt is the foundation of logic, where confusion is the breeding ground for imagination. The 63rd shadow of doubt represents a huge question mark, literally wired into the human brain. Your logical left brain is designed to see things in terms of repeating patterns, and this ability has been a key ingredient in human evolution. As the cognitive functioning in our brains develops, early human beings begin to teach themselves more and more effective skills to ensure their survival. Today, we have become so efficient in the use of our tools that we can even read logical patterns wired into our very DNA. Doubt can therefore be a very positive force in driving evolution forward. However, the problem with doubt is that it does not go away. Doubt sits there deep within the neuro circuitry of every human brain, where it causes a huge unconscious pressure. When seen purely for what it is, doubt is simply the word we humans give to this constant mental pressure. Although this pressure behaves differently from one human to another, the one consistency is that it drives each of us to try to bring an end to the pressure. We humans cannot easily accept this never-ending feeling of being unsettled somewhere deep inside. For most of us, the need for mental clarity results in our taking on a firm set of beliefs or values that provide a barrier against the doubt inside of our minds. Doubt is the beginning and end of the human journey. It leads to the gift of inquiry, which in turn leads to the discovery of the city of truth, the final answer to all doubt. However, the journey through the levels of the 63rd gift does not lead you to the direction you might expect. The final resolution of logic lies outside the domain of logic. In this sense, truth comes as an illumination from within the 64th city, rather than an answer from without. Our conundrum is simply a matter of evolutionary circuitry. Our brains have evolved to try to find release from the inner pressure. But in a sense, we have been conned by nature because there is no answer to our doubt. At the same time, our attempts to end our mental anxiety have forced the brain to evolve even further. This is how our anxiety serves evolution. The other important aspect about doubt is that although it is impersonal, truly impersonal, we humans make it personal. If doubt serves genuine inquiry, then it becomes creative. But if it becomes personal or is internalized, it becomes destructive. If you do not use your mind in a creative way, the pressure either becomes a projection onto someone or something outside of it, or collapses inward and becomes self-doubt. It is self-doubt that so undermines the individual from trusting in his or her own inherent creativity. Doubt belongs to the collective. Individuals need to understand that self-doubt is a low-frequency conditioning field that pressures all human beings to evolve to a higher life service to totality. Higher life of service to the totality. When you are in the throes of self-doubt, you must weather the storm. The very best thing to do with self-doubt is share it with others. In doing so, you can embrace it and allow it to move on through. The worst thing you can do during a period of self-doubt is to take forced or premature action. If the individual succumbs to the pressure of doubt, the other direction she or he can take at the shadow frequency is to repress it through dogma and opinion. Since the 63rd shadow is the root of scientific thinking, it can be used to construct a false logical reality that gives the mind answers to the doubt. When the logical mind is prevented from doubting, it also stops evolving. Without doubt, the logical mind is inherently unhealthy because it short-circuits its own nature, which is to keep asking questions. As was said earlier, when logic moves to the extreme periphery of what can be known, it meets paradox. We can see this in the spheres of mathematics, philosophy, or quantum physics. The human logical mind is simply not designed to be certain of anything other than the paradox. Anything less than paradox takes place within the shadow frequency and must therefore be logically false. The beauty of logic is that it itself is a great paradox. It seeks an end to doubt, but can never be satisfied in any single answer. The only satisfactory is one that defies logic. At the shadow frequency, all the human mind wants is certainty, and if it cannot find it, it will manufacture it. Out of this very human fear of uncertainty, all dogmas and rigid systems are born. Anything that purports to bring an end to your uncertainty through external means is selling falsity. Such people or systems are actually a potential danger to you. Doubt is not the enemy. Your fear of uncertainty needs to be recognized and embraced, because the deeper you can embrace uncertainty, the closer you come to the transcendent. I love how transcendent was just kind of dropped there, referenced because of today's turtle medicine energy and your transcendent presence. I feel there's a lot of overlays. And if you are participating in both drops at the same day, I'm sure you can see some of the significance as well. Okay, the human mind logically mindus. The human logical mindus is simply not designed to be mind mindus. The human logical mind is simply not designed to be certain of anything other than paradox. The repressive nature, self-doubt. When doubt is repressed, it plagues us as self-doubt. Self-doubt is based upon comparison and does us no harm as long as we simply observe it as a mental conditioning pattern. Self-doubt only becomes destructive when we identify with it and believe its propaganda. If left to its own devices, self-doubt must eventually destroy itself. If we trust in our doubt completely, then we must even doubt our own self-doubt. This is the paradoxical power of doubt, witnessed as an evolutionary force. However, for most people, self-doubt is never allowed to complete its own process. We give in to our fear and fix it at a certain frequency. When this happens, self-doubt eats away at us as anxiety. This anxiety constantly troubles us and has sweeping effects on our health and general well-being. It even pursues us into our dream life and will not allow us to sleep properly unless our awareness disidentifies with these mental patterns. We enter a terrible world in which nothing we do or say is ever good enough. The reactive nature, which is suspicion. When the 63rd shadow is expressed in its reactive mode, it is externally projected into the world and becomes suspicion. This kind of doubt is also ultimately rooted in self-doubt, but is transformed into anger and taken out on others. The most common form of suspicion falls upon those closest to us. Under this 63rd shadow, we project our doubts onto our partners, spouses, bosses, and even our own children. Whenever we make our doubts personal, we embark on a wave of destruction that endlessly feeds back onto and into itself. Other people's responses to our suspicion can be vehement or defensive, which further fuels our doubts about them. In this way, logic appears to prove that our suspicion about others is true. This is a classic biofeedback loop, common to many relationships. It can be so easily avoided if individuals either own their own self-doubt or project it back out into society in a creative, exploratory way. Relevant stuff here for everyone. Okay, that sums up the first of 4 days. That's the shadow frequency. Stay tuned for the gift frequency on 1320 time stream.